Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Ganu, for the nice welcome and introduction. I count it as a very special privilege for me to be speaking today about writing for publication. I wanted to stop it there, but of course, we are doing this primarily for a journal, but the first half, I'll be talking about writing for publication in general. But towards the end, I will go into the specifics of our journal for those who want to submit something for publication. The deadline, before I forget, the deadline for submission is February 28th. So, by attending this and by applying what we're going to talk about, I believe you'll be able to prepare a very strong manuscript that has much more likelihood of being accepted. I want to welcome our AUA family, the faculty, the staff, and the students scattered all around the continent. Names that come from many different countries here in Africa. Welcome. And I want to welcome all my colleagues from the Philippines. Obviously, you were able to see the announcement that I posted on my Facebook. We are very glad that you're here. And yes, you also can submit and publish in our journal. This journal, as you heard from our dean, it is accredited here in Kenya. So just like for those who are in the Philippines, that will be the equivalent of CHED accredited journal. This is like that same accreditation level. That's what we're talking about. I just wanted to clarify that so that we all move together. If you have a question, just put it in the chat area, and we're going to come back to that. And what the dean has just said, that I'll just present first and address the questions later on. So let's go into publication. There are two things, maybe three, that I enjoy the most, and anybody who has ever worked with me, either as a student or as a colleague, they know that I love these three things very, very much as a scholar. One is research and writing and publishing. I definitely love that. Even just 2 days ago, I submitted another article, and last week I submitted a chapter, and hopefully next month I'll submit something else. I enjoy writing, I enjoy research. It's just a passion, a special passion for me. And that's the reason why I'm speaking about publication, because I enjoy publishing or working on papers for publication, and also being part of review boards in many different journals. The other thing I like the most is qualitative research. I'm very passionate about that because we are able to really enjoy digging deep and discovering things in their wholeness. And the third one is teaching. I enjoy being definitely a teacher. And so, you'll find that all these things come interacting when I'm talking and I'm speaking. We're going to talk about why we publish. I think we need to start there so that we have a common foundation of what we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about the mission and scope of JASST, of our journal. And from there, I'm going to talk about some important writing tips that can help you not only in this journal, but in any journal where you want to submit a manuscript. I'm going to talk about how to prepare a manuscript for publication in general. What are some of the things you should keep in mind before you submit, so that you give yourself a better chance of being accepted. And then after that, we are going to look at our journal requirements in details, so that for those who are planning to submit this month, they know exactly what to expect, because if you prepare properly, guess what? You have guaranteed yourself to publish. So why do we publish? I want to start with an experience I had in 2006. I was finishing my doctorate, and I started applying. I was studying in Arizona. For those who have been in the Grand Canyon, it was just 1.5 hours away from there, in a little place called the Flagstaff. If you've been to the Grand Canyon, you have probably seen that place. And I started applying for jobs everywhere. And I could hardly receive any response. And those who responded, they said, well, we have received your application, but and if you are selected like a top 10, then we'll get back to you. And nobody ever got back to me. And I started wondering, is this because of my name? Because you see, my name, many people struggle to say it, Safari Wambaleka. And in the US, it's even worse, it's even more difficult to pronounce. I have heard all kinds of pronunciation of my name. And so I started thinking, oh, maybe it's because of my name. Oh, maybe it's because of my skin color. Maybe people don't like me or something. Until someday, my professor, one of my professors, one of my, the committee members of my dissertation wrote to me and he said, hey, we need to talk. It's been long. Come, let's talk. So I went there after class and he said, hey, how are things going? How is the dissertation and so on? And have you started applying? I said, yes, I've been applying. And he said, how many applications have you sent? I tried to be, I didn't want to be ashamed that I had actually sent 30 applications and had not received anything. So I lied, I need to confess. I lied and I said, I have sent out 20 applications. I thought he was going to say, wow, that's really, really bad. But the question he asked me, he said, what have you been doing? Why have you sent only 20 applications? I said, oh, so actually it was 30. Actually it was 30. I have sent 30. He said, that's not enough. Anyways, fast forward in the story. He said, okay, now that I see that you're not receiving any feedback, do you have your CV? I said, yeah, I have my CV. I happen to have it on my computer. So I opened my computer and said, let me look at it. It was actually a man from Kenya. And so he looked at it and he says, Safari, something is wrong with you. It's like, okay, what is he talking about? He said, what have you been doing? You see, at that time, I had done 3 master's degrees and I was finishing a doctorate and I was kind of proud that, hey, I showed him, I said, don't you see that I've been studying, I have 3 masters and finishing a doctoral degree. He said, that's not enough, work scholar. This is the reason why people are not getting back to you, because you have not published. Oh, I said, but I have a couple of applications. I had I think 2 or 3 articles. He said, you have not published at all and you want to be a university professor. What's wrong with you? You cannot expect anybody to hire you with just 3 articles that you have published. As a doctoral student, you should have published at least 10 articles. Oh, okay. He says, Safari, stop playing games. You are preparing to be a professor, university professor. You need to start acting like one. That was a challenge that transformed my life. Because ever since I heard that speech, I never stopped publishing. I think every year I'm able to publish a number of articles. Now I do it because of passion. That day I started doing it because of the challenge, because I discovered that my career, it was not going to go anywhere. If you want to be a professor, you really need to publish both research and articles. But you see, back then, and I think it's still happening in some of the universities here in Africa, and even in the Philippines, for those who are joining us from the Philippines, people believe that publication is for the smartest of the smartest. Well, let me tell you this. If it was for the smartest of the smartest, maybe I shouldn't be publishing, because I don't consider myself the smartest of the smartest. But it is for people who persist, and I'm going to come back to this later on. I have a quotation from one of my books. That it's not really for the smartest of the smartest, because if it was, then it wouldn't have as many publications as we have. The thing is that many people have been led to believe that it is so impossible. It's an impossible mission. I'm here to tell you that it is possible. It is possible. And the thing, the strategies to actually write for publication, they are simple things. But I had to learn the hard way. And as a result of learning the hard way, I have developed several strategies that I have been using to publish and also to teach other people. And today I'm going to share some of them. And in the future, you can get some more. So why do we publish? We publish to learn. We publish to learn as you write to prepare manuscript for publication. You learn from the process. You learn new things as you read the literature. You grow as a scholar because as you read, as you write your sentences, your paragraphs, and arrange things, you are using your brain so much. And even if it is a research paper, you have done research to be able to produce the research paper. So you grow as a scholar. You are able to share with the world out there, and you are able to advance your career. Many people publish because they want to get a position, to become this or that. But you see that I didn't put it as the first one. It is good to advance in your career, but it should not be the only reason we publish, because if it is, then the day we get the highest ranking, academic ranking, we are going to stop publishing. While it shouldn't be like that, we should continue publishing. And I always believe that we publish because we want to praise God for our brain. Can you imagine? There are people who have not been given a good brain that they cannot even finish elementary school. And there's those who can finish elementary school, but they cannot finish high school because their capacity, their IQ is very, very low. So if you have been able to study all the way to bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctoral degree, you know what? You are completely blessed, and you can definitely use that to publish, to praise God that indeed I'm grateful that I was able to get this kind of IQ, and share your knowledge with the world, share the knowledge within your community, and for us who are professors, and many professors are on this platform right now, you know, you should never, ever continue to claim to be professors. It doesn't matter which academic ranking we have if we are not publishing, because to me, that what distinguishes a university lecturer or university professor from a secondary school or elementary school teacher is publication. Because everybody else can teach, but only university lecturers and professors, we expect them to publish. It is true that you can publish even if you're teaching high school and elementary school, but you know what? You can live the rest of your career without publishing, and nobody's going to ask you why you didn't publish. But university professors and lecturers, that is not true. So, what is the JASST mission? The Journal of Applied Social Science, Human Development and Technology, as we call it, JASST. What is its mission? The mission is to disseminate knowledge and provide a scientific advancement. I think this is something that should always be the focus of any journal. How do we ensure quality? We definitely promote ethics, ethical practices, and you'll find that in the guidelines, and we're going to get there. We have peer review process to make sure that the manuscript, before it is published, it has been reviewed by other scholars in the field. We use English as the medium of publication, and this is because here at our university, we come from many different universities, both the students and the faculty and the staff. We are using APA primarily for this journal, and we have templates, a template for the research manuscript and a template for the theoretical manuscript, and we're going to look at that later. The scope of our journal, we publish both research and theoretical papers in business, education, leadership, computer science, and public health. So if you are planning to submit something to us, please make sure it has something to do with these. Because, for example, if you had to submit something in electrical engineering, you have conducted a research in electrical engineering, we are not going to accept it because it's not part of our scope. And this is part of the reasons why, one of the reasons why manuscripts are rejected. When you submit a manuscript to a journal, that is not the scope of your topic or your field. That is one of the things that you need to keep in mind when you are trying to submit. Bottom line, any manuscript submitted must be aligned to these, must be aligned with these different things that we have talked about here. So, what are some of the important writing tips that you need to keep in mind? Number one, you need to have a clear problem that you want to address. Yes, I know. You took this research class and your professor was telling you you need to have a problem statement. Indeed, we want to have a clear problem statement. What is the problem you're trying to solve? For my colleagues from the Philippines who are on this platform, I have come across a number of papers, especially in the conferences, where people say the statement of the problem, research question number 1, research question number 2, research question number 3, research question number 4. Well, the research questions are not a problem. Those are research questions. That's why they end in a question mark. They are not the problem. The problem is a statement. We're talking about a problem statement. That is a declarative sentence. It's usually one paragraph or so. So here is how you get to know what your problem. You know what your problem is by answering, what is the problem here? If you can answer that question in a few sentences, you have created your problem statement. For example, you have students in your school, and students over the last 5 years, students, like 50% of students have been failing in their statistics class. Okay, that is a problem. 50%, if I had to write it in one sentence, at least 50% of students fail statistics in this specific university every year. That is a problem. And I want to understand it, and I want to see if we can find solutions to that problem. And then from there, we go to the research questions. What are the research questions? So we will have something like, what are the factors that affect the academic performance in statistics class? Things like that. Those will be the research questions. So we need to have a clear problem stated clearly, so that when we're reading the rest of the paper, we're trying to find the solution to the problem that you stated. The other thing that I want to emphasize on is paragraph writing. You say, really, seriously, you're talking about paragraph writing? Yes, I'm talking about paragraph writing. In high school, we were misled, and actually I did the same thing because I taught high school English and high school French, and we told students, this is exactly what you heard. Believe it doesn't matter where you were in your high school, you probably heard the same thing, where the language teacher told you a paragraph is a sentence or a group of sentences that express one complete idea. I'm sure you're smiling right now, and we are wondering how I knew that. Because that is a definition that you find in many language classes, that a paragraph is a sentence or a group of sentences that make up, present a complete idea. The complete idea part is correct, but the one sentence part is wrong. We do not write a paragraph in a scholarly article or manuscript, whether it's thesis or dissertation. We do not write a paragraph of one sentence or two sentences. We do not. Because you see, a paragraph must start with the main idea and then have supportive sentences. There's a strategy that I call I-MISS. Unfortunately, I want to talk about that. I'll just explain it in a simple way here, that you should have at least 5 sentences in every paragraph that you have. You say, how did you get to 5 sentences? The first sentence should make your main idea, should state your main idea. Have you ever had a time when you submitted a paper for class and the professor says, either they said, I don't really understand what you're going, it's like there are some ideas, but I don't know how they're related. Or another one said, yeah, you have the paper, but the ideas are underdeveloped. What is happening there usually is about the paragraph. The first sentence should be the main idea, usually, although when you're already expert, you can change that. But the first sentence, main idea, and then you follow that up with at least 3 sentences that are giving details about the main idea that you presented in the first sentence, and then add at least one sentence that is either synthesizing, addressing the question, so what about that paragraph, or transitioning you to the next paragraph. So this is how you get to 5 sentences. So I will say a paragraph in a scholarly writing somewhere between 5 to 8 sentences, not 1 or 2 sentences. When you have a paragraph of 1 or 2 sentences, you know that that paragraph is underdeveloped, and you'll find somebody telling you that. Whenever writing scholarly, we must have evidence. And evidence can be done in 2 ways. The first one is the citations. When you write your introduction, your literature review, even the methodology, together with the discussion section of your work, you must cite the different authors that you have read. You cannot write scholarly without reading scholarly work. They go hand in hand. And so, bottom line, I always tell people 2 things, and I talk about that in my book. Number 1, from your introduction all the way to the methodology section, if it's a research paper, never, ever, ever have a paragraph without citation. And when I'm talking about citation, I'm not talking about direct quotes. No. I'm talking about sources that you are actually citing. So never, ever have a paragraph that doesn't have anything that you have cited. Number 2, do not write like high school, where one paragraph is one reference. And then you go to another paragraph, it's a different source. And you go to another one, it's one source. No, the literature review, same thing with the introduction, is a dialogue. It's like a round table discussion between the different scholars that have written on your topic. So one of them may be you may cite one author 5 times, another one 10 times, another one 2 times, another one once. And that's exactly what happens with the roundtable discussion. Some are cited more than others. And so when you are talking, whenever you write anything that is a strong statement, make sure you cite other people who have written about that. It makes your paper more scholarly. But when you get to the results section, the discussion and the conclusion, make sure everything that you are saying, synthesizing your findings, you are discussing your findings, you are making practical implications of your study, that everything is directly aligned with the results of your manuscript. Because if it's not, then we say you have bias. And we don't want a bias at all. We want your paper to be free from bias, except in some situations that I want to talk about today. We need to have a clear organization. And this is the reason why each journal has a template for you to follow. That's the reason why it's never, ever a good idea for you to submit a manuscript to a journal without ever reading the guidelines and the templates. Because by just doing that, you will have learned how to prepare your manuscript, and right there you are giving your paper a much better chance to be approved. The next one is proofreading. I just received the manuscript. I was just reviewing a manuscript yesterday or 2 days ago for a journal in the US. It's a journal I've been a peer reviewer for quite some time now. The manuscript I was reviewing, it was not proofread. But when I knew where it was written, I knew that it's a country where they are not native speakers. I gave them a break. But guess what? For native speakers, they are now going to give you a break. You might as well get somebody who's good in editing, go through your paper before you submit it, because when the paper has so many mistakes, grammar, spelling, and the punctuation, you know, if the peer reviewer or the editor finds other mistakes, it's easy for them to reject it because they know that they will have to work too hard about it. It may not be the only reason to reject your paper, but when it is combined with other issues, it can be easily rejected. On the research methodology, please do not leave things for guessing. And we'll come back to this. you need to present exactly what you did and how you did it and why you did it. That needs to be presented. That's the reason why sometimes when people have a manuscript, it has a section called a methodology. It doesn't have subsection. You'll find that they have one paragraph of the methodology. There is no way you'll convince people that you were able to give all the information in just one paragraph of the whole thing that you did in your study. That's impossible. That is impossible. It means you have left out some important information that will help the readers understand exactly what you did. You need a clear alignment, which is directly related to organization. Everything that you present in your paper, section by section, everything should be aligned, and we should have a clear connection between each of the sections and the title. And the literature review should have connection with the methodology. Methodology should have a connection with the introduction. The introduction should have connection with the conclusion and the results. Everything should be coherent. The moment we go back and forth and we don't have a clear direction, we have a problem with that. The last one is the evidence-based conclusions. Whenever we are in the conclusions, two things we must keep in mind. Number one, what are the research questions that I started with? Read them and address them in your conclusion. Then you go to your conceptual framework or theoretical framework. What did I write there? Then come and write in the conclusion how your findings relate to that. And then you look at maybe the practical aspect of your research. What does this say? What does it mean to the practitioners in my field? Then write that, but whatever you write there, make sure it has basis in your results. Because if you are making recommendations there and the results, there's nothing about that in the results, again, we will tell you there's a gap, or we will tell you that that is your bias. And trust me, this happens a lot when we are novice writers. I remember once I was speaking at a conference in Manila. That was back in 2013. I remember very well the conference. It was put up by Philippine University, a Polytechnic University of the Philippines. For those of you who are in the Philippines, you know where it is. It was a good, very huge conference, really, really nice, very well organized. And as I was finishing my presentation, I said, okay, let me look at some abstracts and see where I'm going to go after this. And then I came across one abstract that intrigued me. The abstract was about job performance, and I'm going to use this because we can all relate to that. Job performance and stress and job performance. Basically, the effect of stress on job performance. Well, I thought that was pretty good and started reading the abstract, and the abstract went something like this. Well, this study was conducted at a university, blah, blah, blah. And there were teachers and staff members who participated. This was the number. And the findings revealed, listen to this carefully. The findings revealed that there was no relationship between stress and job performance. Okay, that was a problem right there. It means, I mean, you don't even need to conduct a study to know that when somebody's stressed, their job performance goes down. You don't need any research study to do that. It's common sense, and it has been established in research. So right there, I knew that there was a problem there. I said, that is question number one I'm going to ask this presenter. And then the second thing that he said in that abstract, he said, recommendations are made therefore for the university to prepare programs for stress management. I said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? I don't know if you're catching where I'm headed with this. First of all, the findings reveal that there is no relationship between stress and job performance, meaning whether it's stress or not, it doesn't matter. So if that's true, we don't need stress management programs because stress doesn't have any impact on job performance. But he goes on exactly to say that the university should invest in stress management programs. So right there, you see there's a discrepancy. First of all, there are questionable results. And results like those, we basically will struggle to publish a paper like that. The second problem is that he's making recommendations that are not based on his findings. So when this happens, you are drawing conclusions that are not evidence-based. Any conclusions we have must be directly linked to the results or the findings. So when we prepare a manuscript, what are some of the things you need to keep in mind? I'm sharing with you 5, but there are many, many, many others. And some of them, maybe we'll talk about them in our question and answer time. Number one, before anything else, please read the editorial guidelines. And for those who learned about this webinar from the email, you will notice that I instructed clearly in that email, please read the editorial guidelines. When you do this, you actually give yourself a very high likelihood of being published and less likelihood to be rejected. I call this the Bible of the journal. When you are a Christian and you don't read the Bible, something is going to happen in your work as a Christian. Same thing as an author, when you want to publish, if you submit without reading the editorial guidelines and they actually exist on the website of the journal, you are preparing yourself for serious trouble later on. The second point, you need to ask yourself, what is new that I'm bringing to the table? What is your contribution? Your contribution, maybe there's something new that you have. If you're very high up there, maybe it's a new theory or a new model. But it could be that you were able to test a hypothesis in a new context. That would be a new contribution. Or maybe you tried something with a new population, if it is a quantitative research. Or maybe you discovered a new phenomenon that people have not published on. You need to be able to pinpoint that somewhere before you submit your manuscript. What is really new here that people didn't know, which will make people want to publish my paper? Maybe it's something that people have been publishing on in Asia, and now you want to publish it here in Kenya. Well, that is something, because now you have changed the context, because some of the things that work in Asia may not work here, and things that work here may not work in Asia. The next one is scholarship. How scholarly is your manuscript? When you write your manuscript like we write Facebook postings, you know that it's not going to work. We need to cite sources. We need to write complete paragraphs. We need clear presentations of the material, the content. We need the research methods to be appropriate using the research methods knowledge that we learned in our research methods classes. So when people are reading the paper, they will feel like indeed this is a manuscript, a scholarly manuscript worth publishing. The next thing is the scope. Make sure that you read the section of the journal that says scope of the journal. There will always be one in every journal. If a journal doesn't have any scope, there's a problem with that. You should not even publish there. Because then they are publishing anything, most likely the quality is also low. Try to find out if it fits within the scope of the journal. If it does not, look for another journal. And the content, make sure that it's complete, that you have presented the complete picture, that is clear, everybody can read and understand. Make sure that the organization is logical. Make sure you will have used current resources, references, and make sure that you have evidence for everything that you are talking about, especially the strong statements and conclusions that you are drawing. So I told you I was going to share with you a quotation from one of my books, and you can get many of my books on this website. For those who are in the Philippines, you can actually get hard copy. I have not managed to get hard copies here in Kenya yet. I've been working with a number of printing presses, but the COVID-19 stopped me from doing that. And here is something you'll find on pages 6 and 7 from a publishing If You Know More. This is my second edition. This book is available also on the website. It is not the best writers who get published. It is the persistent and dedicated ones who do. When the persistent writers publish over and over again, they end up becoming known as the best writers. You know, I don't know how many times I've heard from people that, oh, I cannot publish because I'm very busy. I cannot publish because I'm very busy. And then you find somebody like our dean. Our dean here, Professor Ganu, is one of the busiest men on this campus. I'm not exaggerating. Anybody who knows him knows exactly what I'm talking about. But he's publishing and he's presented in the conferences. And so when you see somebody like that, who is one of the busiest people in the whole university, publishing, doing research, and presenting at conferences, and teaching and doing all administrative work, we have no reason not to publish. Yeah, I remember a number of universities I spoke at in the Philippines on this training, 2 days. I used to give 2 days training on the publication. And people would come to me and they say, oh, I cannot publish because I don't have time. And I give an offer, and I'm going to give the same offer for anyone who's on this platform who is not an administrator, okay? If you're a student or you have a faculty or staff, if you are not publishing because you believe you are extremely busy, please talk to me. We are going to compare notes, my busyness and your busyness. If you are able to prove to me that you are busier than me, I will co-author an article with you so that you can also publish. But this doesn't apply to the administrators, okay? It does not apply to administrators because administrators can have quite a hectic life. But anybody who's not an administrator, who is on this platform, if you think you are not publishing because you're extremely busy, please touch with me and let's compare notes. If you are able to convince me that you are busier than me, I will co-author an article with you so that you can also publish. Guess what? For 5 years, I have been giving that offer to people, at least in the Philippines, and nobody has ever come for it. I'm offering the same thing today. And if you think you cannot take the offer, then please go ahead and start working with that manuscript and submit it by the end of this month, and let's get your work published. So let's look at the requirements of our journal. You'll find that they are aligned directly with what I have talked about. The general criteria for manuscript acceptance, and you find this in the guidelines. Actually, everything I'm presenting now in section E is directly linked to the website, the web page. I sent you the link, whether it was on Facebook or in the face-to-face, through email. You received a link in the instructions I sent you. If you click on that, you'll find the same information there. So these are the areas we're going to look at when you receive your manuscript. Suitability of the subject matter or scope. Does it fit within the areas we have just talked about? Is it scientifically sound? Is it original? Or is it something you have already published somewhere? If you have already published somewhere, we're going to throw it. Does it have current information? Is the manuscript something that people will need right now? Because right now, if you want to publish something on something that happened in 1920 that has no relevance to what we are doing right now, we are going to reject it because it's irrelevant. Because this is an international journal, this is an international university, we want to reach the global world, the global arena. So whatever you submit to us, we will look at it and see if people from many different countries can benefit from it. If it is something, for example, this is what I always tell people when I give training on action research. If you're doing action research, it's ideal that you publish it in a national journal or local journal, because action research is usually about like a classroom-based something that is really relevant locally. And so you may not want to submit that to the international journal. Compliance with specific research reporting protocols, and we're going to look at those. And they are actually on the website. We have the whole information there, all the guidelines, even the templates are there. Coherence of the research design and the methodology. We definitely, if it's a research paper, we really want to see that you understand very well your research methodology that you use. You cannot just say, I used, let's say I'm using an example of qualitative research here. You cannot just say, okay, this study was a qualitative research. I interviewed the 5 people, and that's the only thing you have in the methodology. No, we want to know, to make sure that you know what qualitative research design you used and why you used it, and cite actually some of the experts on that qualitative research design, and show us the steps that you took to collect your data, to analyze your data, to draw your conclusions. We need to see all that information. So now, on the template, what are some of the things that we see in the template? Title. In the title, you need, and here we're talking about the research article, you need to give us the keywords. If it's quantitative research, we want to see all the variables there. If it's qualitative research, we want to see the phenomenon that you are addressing. And preferably, you should have the research setting there. If it was a university, you may say in a public university in Nairobi, or in a Christian church in Baguio City, for those who are in the Philippines, or in a local community in the province of Cavite. Why are you going to put something a little broader? Is because we don't want you to reveal the actual name of the university, because that is unethical practice. You cannot say the relationship between stress and job performance at the Adventist University of Africa. That would be unethical, because anything that's negative that is going to happen in that manuscript will reflect negatively at the Adventist University of Africa. But you need to hide that and say something like at a private university in Nairobi, for example, or a Christian university in Nairobi. It would not be actually good to say in an Adventist university in Nairobi, because in Nairobi, that's the only Adventist university where we have, at least so that's the one that I know. There might be another one, but most likely it's the only one. So even if you didn't say Adventist University of Africa, the fact that you said in an Adventist university in Nairobi or in Rongai, anybody can easily guess which university that is. So we need to protect the confidentiality of the place. And sometimes in the title, you may have the participants or the respondents. For example, if all your respondents are students, graduate students, doctoral students, it is good to put them there so that if somebody is looking for something like that, they will easily come to your title. Make sure your title is not too long. Usually, I tell people for an article, somewhere between 8 to 12 words are enough. I think in our guidelines we have a number. I don't know if it's 10 to 15. Usually, if your title is extremely long, people will not remember, will not even understand what your manuscript is about. And also, when the title is like 4 words only, unless it's a theoretical paper, people do not have enough information. Remember that the first 2 things that people are going to look at when they download your manuscript is the title and the abstract. And the title will lead them to download your paper once they read the title. So if your title is not written properly, you may publish and you find that the manuscript that you published 10, 20 years ago, nobody has ever cited it. It's because nobody was able to find it, because the title was terrible. The next thing that people do, they read the abstract to see if it matches what you are looking for. That's the reason why the abstract should also be very carefully prepared. In a research article, here we have the background of the study. We have the research design. We have the research setting. So we need to briefly say where it was conducted without specifying the name. We need to have the data collection methods, whether it was survey or experimental thing, with test and pretest, all those things need to be there for quantitative research. And we need to have a synthesis of the findings so that people know what happened. And sometimes if you still have enough room, you may have just a brief implication of what the study was about. So within the abstract, people are able to get a lot of information from the abstract. The next thing is the keywords. The keywords, Nobody has ever told us how to write them, but these are the key concepts. But you need to put also your research design, because somebody may be looking exactly for research design, maybe multiple regressions, meta-analysis, structural equation modeling, phenomenology, case study, grounded theory. If that's what you did, put it there, because somebody may be looking for that. And when that keyword is used, your article will be found. That's why we have keywords, because they help people to find your article. And you need to put the research setting there. It is nice, because this is an international journal, to put the country where your study was conducted, again, if it is a research article. The introduction, where there you must have three main things. The first one is the background of the study, now a little bit more information than what you had in the abstract. And then you have two other things: the problem statement, clearly state what the problem is. And then automatically after the problem statement, you need to state what your study is, your study did. So the purpose of the study, or the goals or the objectives of your study, must be all presented there in the introduction. Usually, introduction may be one or two pages, a double space. It will be perfectly fine. Then you have literature review. And the reason why we are separating these two is that usually when you have literature review integrated in the introduction, people do not actually write the literature review. Here we are requiring, I believe, 4 to 6 pages for literature review, because we want you to show that you have actually read about the topic very well, and you present clearly where your topic is coming from, and make sure you are using the writing strategies that we talked about, where you are mixing many different resources. Make sure you have some of the seminal works, those are the most cited works on the topic, and also the rest of them, most of them should be new resources, so that people are reading the most current information, because things keep changing regularly. The next one is the theoretical framework or conceptual framework. The theoretical framework is what we use for qualitative research. It's basically the synthesis of theories that are related to your study, and you show how those theories are related to your study. It is true that in the quantitative research, we can use both theoretical and conceptual framework, but conceptual framework cannot be used in qualitative research. Why? Because a conceptual framework is primarily a relationship between variables. And because in qualitative research, we do not deal with variables, we do not have conceptual framework. And then you have the methodology. In the methodology, you have the research design, the research setting, the participants or the respondents, the population for those who are in quantitative research, how you selected the participants. You have ethical considerations where you talk about the permissions that you got, and some data analysis, what data analysis model that you used and why you used that, the data you collected and why you collected that data. All this information cannot be presented in one paragraph. That's why in JASST, we have split them. You'll find a section that is called methodology, and within that you'll have subsections. So in each subsection, you must write at least one paragraph to make sure that you present completely the picture. In the results, of course, that is very well known. That's why you present the results, and you present only the results that are relevant to your research problem, the research questions, and the purpose statement. Because if you're doing quantitative research, you'll get some data that is irrelevant. Same thing with the qualitative research, actually. When you're doing interviews, you'll find a number of things that people come up with that have nothing to do with your paper. They may be good things that can even improve people's lives, but they are not part of your manuscript. Do not put them there. And in your discussion, you basically synthesize your results and you show how your findings either confirm what has been found before or reject or expand what has already been found before in previous literature and previous research. That's what happens in the discussion. Some journals will put discussion and conclusion together. They will not even have discussion or discussion and results. But the bottom line is that in the discussion, you are comparing and contrasting what has been found before with what you have found. In the conclusion, you need to think about 5 things. I will see if I can remember that. Number 1, you synthesize your findings. I think that everybody knows that. Number 2, practical implications. Have you noticed how we always complain that there's so much research being done and nothing is changing? It's because when we write that conclusion, we do not tell people what to do practically. So we must have practical implications. Number 3, we need to have a theoretical implications or conceptual implication. So this is where you link your findings with what you put in your theoretical framework or conceptual framework. Number 4, you need to present the opportunities for future research. That is number 4, future research. What did you come up with in your research that people should continue doing? You don't want people who are interested in your topic to start from scratch. Show them the way. The other good thing I have found with this is that when I work on a new research, sometimes I find myself going to the conclusion and see what recommendations I made. And from there, I actually pick one of those and continue working on the same topic. Number 5, you need to put your limitations of the study. You say, well, but my study is going to be perfect. I have a PhD, I have 2 PhDs, I have 5 PhDs, I have published 100 articles. Trust me, there is no perfect publication in this world. None. That's the reason why when they send your manuscript out, they will still find something to improve on. And so find those things and write them there. What was the weakness of your manuscript? And the last one, the references, this should be in the plural. In our journal, you should have at least 20 books and journal articles. Remember that this journal is a scholarly journal. So anything that you write must be scholarly. And one of the ways to show the scholarliness, if I may call it, is to cite scholarly works. And the first major scholarly works are books and journal articles. So if you're submitting to us, please make sure you have cited at least, and when we say at least, we're not telling you to stop at 20. You can even go beyond that, 25, 30, that's perfectly fine, but no less than 20 books and journal articles, because this is a scholarly paper. So now let's go to the template for a theoretical paper. Again, the title, author's name, abstract. Now the abstract will be different because here you are not doing a research paper. This is just an idea that you want to develop based on existing literature. So there you're not going to have a research methods and data collection methods. You won't have to do that in abstract. Usually in the abstract of that, you will have your background of the study, background of the paper, and present the major concepts or even some specific position that you are going to push in your paper. But please introduce the major sections that you have there. And you may want to write why this specific paper is important. From there, you have, of course, the keywords, and the keywords are now going to have the research setting and the research design and the research data collection methods. If they want to have that, they will just be keywords. They will just be just words, theoretical concepts. In the introduction, background of the study, and again, you present much more broadly what is coming up. You may have definitely a specific problem that is leading you to write that paper. Maybe there's research that's been done, but people do not know how to apply that in real life. So you're trying to translate these difficult concepts into practical knowledge. That might be the reason why you want to do that, stated clearly there. And the body of the manuscript, try to stick to somewhere between 3 to 5 major sections. If you have less than 3 sections, basically you have 1 or 2 sections, it will be hard for people to read because they don't know what is the main, the major topics you're addressing. And also when you have more than 5 major sections, it's like you don't have major topics you are addressing. So I've come to understand over the years that 3 to 5 major sections is kind of the common practice. And then the conclusion there, you synthesize what we have talked about, practical application again. You can make recommendations actually for future research. If you did a thorough, maybe systematic literature review, you may come across things that need further research. So make those recommendations for future research. Now on the references, again, we are asking the same minimum of 20 books and journal articles. Other things that you may want to keep in mind, we are trying to target, this is the first time to try to see if we can go according to time. So we are trying for the first time to publish 2 issues this year. We'll see how the first one goes, but we're targeting the first issue of this year because the first issue of the journal was last year. The first issue of this year will be on June 30. We're targeting June 30, and December 31 to be the next one. All must be submitted through JASST platform, not by email. Some of you have sent us manuscripts, and I told you, I emailed you back saying that you must submit it there. And the reason is that it is easier to manage things on that platform. Just click on that link that was in the message that you received, and you'll be able to follow that. The next one, the message said there was an administrative fee of $50 per manuscript. So please do not forget that. Once we feel that your manuscript has some potential, we will send you information on how to submit, to send the payment. The submission for manuscripts for this issue, for the June issue, is February 28, as I mentioned earlier. The feedback of the manuscript will be by March 31. That is at least the plan. I'm hoping that we can keep up with that. We really have to, because April and May will be extremely busy. The manuscript, you'll have 1 month maximum to resubmit your manuscript, your revised manuscript, and we encourage you not to wait until the end of April. If you are able to receive the feedback by March 31, try to resubmit within 2 weeks. That way we have more time and you don't run into problems later on, because if you run beyond April 30 and we happen to have a lot of manuscripts, we are going to push your manuscripts to the December issue, and that's like waiting for 1 whole year for you to publish. The publication of an article the article will be by June 30. So this is more or less what is happening with our journal. And at this point, Dr. Ganu, I'm ready to take some questions. I know that some questions might be, Dr. Ganu may have the answers, because I just joined the journal last month, 2 or 3 months ago. So at this time, if you have a question, please post it in the chat room and we'll make sure we address that. Dr. Ganu.
Thank you very much, Dr. Safari. This has been a good information that we have. Thank you very much. And keep your questions coming, but for you to know that this journal is published biannually, 2 times in a year, first half of the year. So by June, we should be publishing the first publication should come out. Then we'll begin receiving another manuscript to be published in November or December. So just for you to know. So if you have any questions, just paste them in the chat forum and we will answer. I think I have one question here. Greetings, Professor. I have a question. I need clarity on the number of books. The number of books needed is 20 and the number of journal is 20 as well, right?
No, it's not. It's the combination. but please give preference to the journal articles. It's not 20 journal articles and 20 books, no. It's at least 20 books and journal articles combined. Yeah, but please try to give preference to the journal articles, because the information in journal articles is usually more current than books.
Yes. There is another question from Dr. Dea, a wonderful presentation, Prof. I would like to know more about the impact factor. What effect does it have in attracting admission of manuscript? Thank you. You know, impact factor tells how widely that journal has been accepted, and it adds value to that journal and credibility to that journal. And it doesn't come just a month or even a year. You know, when you have a journal and you make it an open access, it is the number of time people access articles from that journal that gives it more credibility, and that from that you can also be getting your impact factor. But for now, this is a new journal. We are going to make it an open access for it to be circulated widely, for people to access the articles in the journal, and from there we will be receiving the impact factor. But now we are beginning to index the journal. Index it in Google Scholars, in the EBSCO holes, and so on, and Scopio, and so on and so forth. And so we will begin with indexing. But the first thing for a journal to receive a good credibility is the ISSN number, which we have. And then we also have accreditation from our accrediting body. Now we'll begin to index it, and then we'll be talking about the impact factor. Okay. There is another question.
May I that first? Let me add something to that. Everything the Dean has said is correct. One thing that I wanted to add today is that I've been thinking, I have not shared this with our chairman of the board, of having another webinar. This will be an internal one, most likely, on how to make your own publications, giving them a lot more chance to be found and to be cited, which will eventually also affect our journal and have the impact factor, improve our impact factor in the long run. Of course, this will come from after a few years to start seeing an increase on that. We'll see, we may talk about that, because when I got here, I discovered that there were a number of people who have published a number of articles, and from both schools. I'm talking about both schools, not just SPS. And basically their work is not known out there. And that is terrible, not only for the journal, but also for the whole institution. Because the institution, not only do we get the impact factor from the journal, but we get also webometrics in the ranking of our journal worldwide and nationally. Thank you so much, Dean.
Thank you, Dr. Safari. Now, there is a question from Paco, and he is saying, at what point do we pay? I already submitted the manuscript, came in 20 minutes ago. I may have missed it. Now, you are only paying $50 as an editing fee, and you will pay everything through the website, and you will pay when your article is accepted for publication. That is the time you pay for it. Okay.
On that one, I think we will let you know. Let's just put it like this, Dr. Ganu, because unfortunately, I have been in a few situations where people abused of service like this. So what they do, they submit, and once they have received the feedback from people outside, and then they say, okay, I'm not going to publish with you anymore. And now their paper is already improved. They have received the services and they go away. So we will see. This is something that we'll talk some more about. Usually it will be ideal to do it exactly where the dean said. But when you find people like that, it is very, very painful. because people will have already used a lot of their time to help improve the manuscript, and then the person drops out after that. It's sad. It's sad.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Another question is how wordy I am supposed to be. How big should the manuscript be? Do you count words? Yeah, in our guidelines, we have the length of your articles. You will find it in online when you go there, and I think the URL is there for you. When you want to submit article to any journal, the first thing you have to look out for is the guideline, everything, because if you don't go by the guideline, the chances are that your articles may be rejected. So go there, find out about the length of your article, and then go by that. And how many pages should a journal, that I think is the same question. Thanks for this good and timely presentation. Is this journal inclusive or exclusive of religious papers? I want to believe that Dr. Safari gave the scope of our journal, the scope, the papers that are accepted by the journal. And I don't think it includes religious papers. The reason being that social sciences, we adopt different referencing format, which is APA. But religious papers, I think you adopt a different format, which is très bien. And so we have a scope we are going with.
Let me just add something there, Dr. Ganu. If you are talking about, for example, you want to write a paper on religious education, that is directly linked to education, or maybe the spirituality of students in a university. Although it's it looks like it's a religious paper, but it can benefit educators, Christian educators. In that case, it will fit. But if you want to submit a manuscript of the Hebrew analysis of a text, if that's what you mean, definitely not. We will not publish that.
Yes. Even with that, Dr. Safari, with what you have just said, that you are submitting a paper on religious education, it must follow our referencing style.
Correct.
Style. Yeah. Thank you. This is a very lengthy one. Greetings, Dr. Wamalika. I think the question is directed to you. I strongly intend to publish a research for academic merit and getting advantage in substantiating my resume, believing that it will make me a strong candidate for doctorate degree, scholarship application abroad. However, after hearing you, that is possible, it is possible to publish a paper on classroom or institutional situation in an international journal. I believe I do not get a chance then. Do you think it is possible to translate my paper in any way possible from institutional to global applications? Thank you very much. Dr. Safari, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, if you are, it really depends on what university you're going to. If you're going to an Ivy League university, that's where you're trying to get scholarship. I don't think that an institutional research, something you did on your university or in your classroom, that it will count it. I really don't believe so. But can you publish that, for example, classroom-based research in international journal? Actually, there's a number of international journals where people are just interested in the money, that they will publish anything that you get. And you don't want that because those are predatory journals. But you may want to look into, if you're doing qualitative research, there are some international journals of action research that really come from some big, really renowned organizations or universities. In that case, since it's a journal that is specifically directed to classroom-based classroom research, or you may have journals that publish specifically institutional research. I have not come across that, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That will be perfectly fine if it is international. you will still be able to get an application like that. But if you are applying for something where they're really competitive for publication, and they want maybe Scopus index journals, most likely your classroom-based research may not be, I'm not saying that it won't, but it may be a tough sell when you submit that manuscript to them, because if it's an international journal, by default, it should have a global reach. And what we are doing in the classroom has little, not too much, global reach.
So, you know, and in addition to that, you see, most of us, like professors, we give research work to our students in every course we teach. And it's more of literature review, research, systematic review, and so on and so forth. You can improve upon that to reach the standard of journal publication. You can improve on that, but hardly, it may be very difficult. You can even publish from your thesis and your dissertation. You can get an excerpt from that and develop and improve upon it to make it a journal article. So, but mostly articles for in journals like what we are having should be original article, and we also accept paper review articles. There is a question here, Dr. Safari is saying, throw light on the difference between literature review and related literature.
There's no difference, it's the same thing. Well, related literature, okay. Literature review and review of related literature is the same. Okay, exactly. But if you say literature review and related literature, those are two different things, so they sound the same. Literature review is that section that you write in your paper that's synthesizing what has been written before. Whatever has been written before is on your topic is called related literature.
Related to your work, should be related to your work. Good. There is a question that says, can we pay through school account? Yes, you can, but you have to specify that, because this journal, this money will go to the journal, and the school must know that you are paying this money for the purpose of your article submission. And once that happens, we will take it. This has been good, Dr. Ganu and the team. Thanks so much. Thank you very much. That's all the questions we have. We will now encourage you to submit manuscript for review and for publication. And we'll be and especially our students and even our guests coming from all over the world. This is going to be biannual publication. Thank you. And Dr. Safari, thank you very much for the good work you have done. We appreciate it very much. Okay, thank you. We will end now. We will